And away we go. It's just me at the moment. Not sure if Eric is going to join. Not sure if Riss is going to join. And I'm not sure if a third person is going to join. Either way, the show must go on. Somehow. So anyway, let's see what is going on in the world today. A car fleeing police slams into a bar in Florida, killing 4 and injuring 11. I'm not liking this already. On Saturday, around 12:45 a.m., a vehicle lost control and struck Bradley's Bar on East 7th Avenue in Ybor City, killing 4 and injuring 11. Tracking the car for alleged street racing and reckless driving, officers followed it off I-5 after Tampa Police Air Service spotted it speeding around 12:40 a.m., believing it raced earlier on Hillsborough Avenue near 22nd Street. Florida Highway Patrol troopers tried and failed to disable the car with a PIT maneuver near Palm Avenue and Nebraska Avenue after officers located it 5 minutes later, with 3 victims dying at the scene and a 4th at the hospital. Authorities booked 22-year-old Silas Sampson Saturday at Hillsborough County Jail. Court documents show he faces 4 vehicular homicide counts as Florida Highway Patrol leads the ongoing investigation. Tampa Police Chief Lee Burkholz said all 15 victims are adults, and the crash impacted the Ybor City nightlife community at an LGBTQ bar on 7th Avenue. Firstly, rest in peace to the 4 people that have lost their lives since the incident with that car. I don't. Why do people go in their cars, do street racing, whilst doing at night time may not be as busy as during in broad daylight? There's still people out in the night, and you never know if you're going to run into them. This is why it's important to be careful when driving, especially at night when you can't see much. I'm no expert on the rules of the road or how to drive a freaking car. However, one thing's for sure, in my opinion, there has to be some kind of re-education on driver's ed. That's what they call it. Acts like that is definitely worth another round of retaking your driver's exam. And if this keeps going and amounts of re-education of driving exams, just take the license off them. If they can't be trusted to drive safely, then I don't think they should be trusted to be driving anything at all. It's madness. It's ridiculous. No one should go through that. It's very, very sad for those people. UK looking at Denmark model to cut illegal migration. Later this month, Home Secretary Shabana Mahmood will announce major immigration changes after dispatching officials to Copenhagen last month to study Denmark's immigration system, the BBC reports. Pressure from a detected re-entry on October 18th and more Channel small boat crossings has increased calls for deterrence to reduce incentives and ease removals, Shabana Mahmood says. Officials note Denmark's tighter family reunion and temporary stay rules, saying refugees face age, employment, benefit and language tests, and parallel societies restrict family reunion. Rasmus Stoklund said, "We have tightened our laws in many ways. Labour MPs are split over adopting Danish-style measures, with White leading 50 Red Wall MPs urging tougher steps while Nadia Whitholm warns the policies are far right." Denmark's record of driving asylum claims to a 40-year low shows, with controversial measures like demolition powers, and offers of up to 24th or voluntary returns, which the UK literally won't copy, Rasmus Stokeland said. Now this is a funny one. Very, very funny. The current Danish government is centre-left, having tighter immigration policies than the UK right now. Yet, people in the Labour Party, which are the current UK government, are saying what the measures that Denmark has put in are too far right. Yet the Danish government, being centre-left, are the ones that implemented these tight immigration measures. I don't see how any of this makes any sense. These claims makes no sense whatsoever. Look, I'm all for foreigners coming into countries, try and find opportunities and contribute to their local communities. However, there has to be a line drawn somewhere about are these foreigners willing to integrate with the society of that country that they're immigrating to, as well as get an understanding of the culture of that country. If they can do that, let them work in the country as long as they want. Maybe bring their families. If also they're also willing to learn about the culture and integrate with the society of that country, I have no problem with any of that. Otherwise, I find this so funny. It's painful for me to think about this, but yeah, it's funny. Looking when looking back on this, I'd be laughing my arse off. Like how could people say that putting tighter immigration measures are deemed far right, yet the government that's implementing these measures in the first place are on the center left of the aisle. What's that all about? And look, parties, people, they're gonna have whatever opinions they have on immigration. However, whatever these claims are, it doesn't add up. It makes no sense. I think that it just comes to show you can say anything and no one will bat an eye about it. And this goes for any story that where actions that have been committed, whatever that might be, are very concerning, questionable, suspicious, or even dangerous. I hate that's the case, but that's how life is going right now. Stories what we see are so satirical and and blown way out of proportion. Next time we see another story that's also blown way out of proportion or absolutely absurd, people will think that is part of life. That a moment like that has actually happened in real life. That's just shocking, man. It really is. Nigeria's new army chief promised to increase operations against terrorists in the country's north. US President Donald Trump had threatened US military involvement if Nigeria did not stop attacks on Christians. Nigeria's population is split almost equally between Christians and Muslims, and attacks have varying motives. You have been training to defeat the terrorists. This time, you are going to do it differently, Shebu told the assembled troops. All combat enablers have been provided. New platforms have been introduced, all to ensure that you succeed. On November 1st, Trump threatened to end all aid and assistance to Nigeria and wipe out the Islamic terrorists in the country. Nigeria's president, Bola Ahmed Tinubu, pushed back on Trump's announcement that he was designating Nigeria as a country of particular concern for allegedly failing to rein in the persecution of Christians. Experts say Trump's comments are a mischaracterization of the conflict. Nigeria's population of 220 million is split almost equally between Christians and Muslims. The country has long faced insecurity for various fronts. This includes the Boko Haram extremist group, which seeks to establish its radical interpretation of Islamic law, and has also targeted Muslims it deems not Muslim enough. Attacks in Nigeria have varying motives. There are religiously motivated ones targeting both Christians and Muslims, clashes between farmers and herders over dwindling resources, communal rivalries, secessionist groups, and ethnic clashes. Firstly, to all of the Christians from Nigeria whose lives were lost, rest in peace. I send condolences to the friends and family of those Christians in Nigeria whose lives were lost. And also I send my condolences to the friends and family of the 4 people who've lost their lives in Florida. Secondly, how does one determine who is and who's not Muslim enough? How, how do people determine who is Muslim and who is not based on appearance or what they wear? Seems religiously discriminatory, if you ask me. Not that it should ever happen. It really shouldn't. Seems religiously discriminatory to say that someone is not Muslim enough, they should no longer live. And I would say the same thing with other religious groups or other people groups. No one should lose their lives because someone is not enough of a particular religion or enough of a people group, if that even makes sense. And look, I don't want to give Trump too much credit for this. However, and despite people hating Trump for, well, anything he says or does, to have Trump speak out on what's going on in Nigeria regarding Christians, that should tell you something. And it's a different story altogether that people that don't like Trump are saying, how dare you support these people? They don't care about us. Who said anything about them? Or whatever those people that hate Trump identify themselves as. Again, I know people don't like Trump, and I don't want to give Trump too much credit on whatever he does. It has to be brought up. It has to be said. And to have Trump being the person that's calling this out, that should tell you something. And especially in the position that he is in right now, I'm not saying wake the heck up, but you should be concerned. You should be worried that this kind of attention is going about now. You never know what Trump is going to bring up next. Not going to be too sure what other stories or events he will bring attention to, but when he does, everyone is going to be talking about it. Whether people like it or not, it will be talked about. US influencers falsely associate Zoran Mamdani with extremist group. Researchers reported Thursday that US right-wing influencers falsely linked New York's mayor-elect Zoran Mamdani to the Islamic State group, and those people amassed millions of views on social media platform Twitter X. The forged communique originated the far-right message board and was amplified by anti-Mamdani accounts on Twitter X, amid attacks on Zoran Mamdani's policy proposals and support for the Palestinian cause. Researchers, including NewsGuard, found the communique was fabricated, and Millet Crisis said it lacked Mac hallmarks, while Laura Loomer amplified the post on Twitter X to more than 200,000 views. Other conservative accounts falsely claimed an IS endorsement of Zoran Mamdani, the New York's mayor-elect. AFP fact-checkers debunked several false claims and racist tropes intensified. Zoran Mamdani celebrated his victory at the Brooklyn Paramount Theater, while researchers noted it doesn't make threats like what is stated in the screenshot to question the communique's authenticity. I'm hearing so much about Zoran Mamdani, especially since he won, and he is now elected as the mayor of New York. If Eric was on here right now, he has a lot. He has so much to say on Zoran Mamdani. One thing's for sure, that something's going to go down in New York City. A lot of things are going to happen, like what happened when Trump was first elected back in. This is going to really set a precedent for the Democrat Party for the next few years. And what Mamdani can do is anyone's guess. And another thing's for sure, whether people say it's true, other people saying, "Oh, no, it's not," that people are going to stay. I've heard that there are a handful of people that have said they were, if Imam Dani were to be elected, which he has, there have been reports, many news reports, of people wanting to seek refuge out of New York City into places in Florida and Texas. And I've also heard recently that Texas Governor Greg Abbott saying, "We're not going to allow these NYC refugees into the state. You get what you voted for." I'm not sure. I'm not sure if he said that, but I feel like what he said there about not letting people from NYC into Texas kind of gives out that energy that says, "You get what you voted for. Deal with it." Anyway, so back to the claims about Mamdani and Islamic State group affiliation. I'm not surprised. I mean, anyone that has any views that, although not fully extreme, but not fully centrist either. Of course, there's always going to be claims, and there's always going to be people saying, "He's part of that group. Why are we allowing this man be mayor of New York City?" And you know what? I can't argue with that. But what can be argued is how we even got to this point. See, how has Mamdani gone through this journey in his political campaign to become New York City mayor, and then he won the thing, even though people, like, before the Democratic primary took place, that someone else was likely to win it. Yet that guy didn't because of particular allegations when he was governor of the New York state. That's one of the reasons. And that really shakes things up. Well, all there is left for me to say is, break a leg, Mamdani. Let's see what you got. You're working with a very, very big budget. A budget far bigger than most US states. And many, many countries combined. Not a lot of countries, but at least very small ones with very small economies. That's how big of a deal it is to be the mayor of New York City. As big of a deal as being a governor of a particular US state. That just comes to show. So of course, everyone's going to make a shake. France halts Sheen suspension proceedings after sex dolls' weapons are withdrawn. On Friday, the French Finance Ministry halted suspension proceedings after Shein, Chinese online retailer, withdrew illicit products following the government's Wednesday blocking process. Authorities moved on Wednesday after inspectors found childlike sex dolls and weapons for sale on Shein, which opened its first physical shop in a Paris department store the same day. The Interior Ministry opened a case in a Paris court. A prosecutor opened 4 investigations, and customs will continue controlling seized goods while probes proceed. Prime Minister Sébastien Lecornu said judicial proceedings remain in place and asked for the situation to be evaluated next week, noting Shein will remain under close surveillance by state services. The Finance Ministry warned it could suspend Shein's entire website if banned products reappear, while Shein said it remains committed to dialogue with the French authorities in order to address the concerns raised and to present the measures we have put in place to continue improving. I'm not sure about that last part. I'm really not. For most of Shein's existence, it has always been an online retailer like Amazon and another platform that I can't think of right now for some reason. However, yeah, Shein has primarily been an online retailer, and having its first physical store open in Paris, and now people saying that these some of the products that are being sold at the physical store being sex dolls and other explicit products. Good grief. I think the time has come to realize that the power and the influence that these primarily online retailers have in global commerce. And the moment they announce they will physical store, you know what? Hearing this story, I wouldn't be surprised either about very unusual products being sold at these stores. Like, why would you even sell that unless you actually go on the online store and find the same said products there as well, and you can buy that and have it delivered to your door. I think that's one of the issues being with fully online retail stores and businesses. Having primarily an online presence without having a physical store, there is very little room for critiques on the products being sold unless you search the product yourself online, as well as not having state level authorities or national level authorities actually questioning the business because there is nothing physical within that country for the business to be held accountable on. And just hearing and knowing that Shein opened its first store in Paris, now we're now starting to see what that national or state level authorities can do and will call business out on from what they see being sold at these physical stores by these retailers. So that just comes to show for any online retailers, I'm looking at you, Temu. You gotta watch your freaking back because if you're selling anything illicit or anything sexual, you're in for it. You're absolutely in for it. So don't make any excuses like, oh, we didn't know these products sold here. How could we forget about that? No, you didn't. You allow these products to be sold in the first place. You just had a primarily online presence where you can't be called out on any state level or national level authorities. And then for that same government of that country to say, if you don't do this, you're off the market to our people. End of. That's just shocking. Goodness me. Well, better later than never, or in this case now than later, because this is the first time we're seeing a physical store of a primarily online retailer being open anywhere in the world. And now, the first impression, the first impressions of a first physical store of an online retailer is the authorities came in. Why are you selling these products? If you don't fix it, we're cutting your services to our people. You can never be too careful in the world of business, no matter what. Ye meets Rabbi Pinto apologizes for past comments on Jews. Pinto's office posted video Thursday showing Ye's meeting with Rabbi Yoshiyahu Yosef Pinto in Manhattan, where Ye expressed remorse and sought forgiveness according to social media posts. The backdrop to the meeting is Ye's record of praising Adolf Hitler, promoting a swastika t-shirt, and releasing Hail Hitler earlier this year, which triggered bans and corporate splits by Adidas, Balenciaga, Universal Music Group, and platforms. During the meeting, Ye explained he was taking accountability and linked past remarks to bipolar disorder, while videos shows them holding hands and Pinto calling Ye a very good man. Reactions were split, with Pinto framing the exchange as redemption, writing a person is not defined by his mistakes, while some condemned the welcome as a vile and vomit-inducing whitewash. Observers caution that Ye's full transformation remains unclear despite outreach, while his inflammatory record caused platform bans and corporate splits even as he continues music releases and international performances. So, I guess Ye is done with the comments on Jews and the Adolf Hitler praise. I don't have a strong opinion on that, other than the history that we know about the Austrian painter. However, look, people, no matter how many people or how wrong opinions can be and how many people disagree with those opinions, I think we should allow dialogue and conversations of these opinions to be expressed. Otherwise, we'll never know how society will evolve or progress because we haven't been challenged on particular beliefs or how people groups behave and react to each other and how they surround themselves in different societies. All I say is, if you're going to say something, try to stick to it. Not I'm encouraging people to say horrible stuff about anyone. Yeah, I know for certain I've seen many people reacting that. It's not a good look for someone to say one thing and then the next minute or the next few months or following year, these people then go back on their word out of fear of what people think of what their opinions are. That's all I have to say on that. Unless there's anything regarding what Ye has said, I think even when people have changes in their opinions about something or someone, I think we should allow people to build on their character and, or at least find better ways to describe their opinions. I am not saying these people are in the right for having such opinions that causes controversies or outrage. However, if you're going to have opinions about something that is going to be quite the hot take, I'd say you should be careful about how you phrase these things to prevent people being given the opportunity to cut your ties financially or in just terms of relations. Even if there are people that don't agree with your opinions, or if people do agree with what you're saying, I still advise people to phrase their words on their opinions carefully. Not to pander to particular groups of people, but at least trying to ensure that just to ensure there's a clear understanding of those opinions, as well as particular other groups of people who have intentions of trolling or trying to get a reaction out of people for all the wrong reasons to take these words out of context and try and escalate the situation far worse than it actually is. Laughing and in short, Louisa Neubauer no longer wants to be the perfect activist. Oh, that's interesting. Louisa Neubauer is considered a leading figure in the German climate movement, but the 29-year-old wants to shed this image. In an interview, she also explains why she cannot travel to the World Climate Conference. Climate activist Louisa Neubauer is no longer trying to be the perfect activist. For a very, very long time, I tried to offer as little target as possible as a woman and an activist. The 29-year-old, who is active with Fridays for Future, told the Frankfurter Allgemeine Sonntagszeitung, she added that it was only last summer that she wrote shorts for the first time at a climate strike, even though it was often very hot. That's absurd. When asked about the beautiful language in her book and the know-it-all tone in her spoken communication, Neubauer replied, I am very mindful of the language I use. But if I stopped doing something every time someone wasn't happy with how I phrased it, and it comes back to the point about how you say certain things on anything, I think it gets to a point, no matter how hard you try to advocate for something, speak out on particular issues, eventually You run out of something to get attention out of. And for Louisa Neubauer, her case is that while she wants to advocate for climate, while she was wanting to be the model activist that everyone should strive for, she does not want to be an active target for anyone. Because if she becomes a target, who knows? Maybe she could have lost her life, or honestly, I'm not sure how else this could have happened. But you know what? I don't blame her for trying to step away from the limelight. Whilst it's important to get attention for what you're saying, you don't want to get too much attention to the point of anything that you say taken out of context, being blown out of proportion, or even, in fact, no matter how hard you try to phrase the things that you're saying, which far more effective than just saying anything outright just to get a reaction, it will never be enough for anyone. And there always will come a limit on how you communicate with the world and communicate the things that people talk about. You say what you gotta say, but you can't say anything without having some kind of opposition. Because even if you're saying something that a lot of people agree with, there's always going to be a group of people that don't agree with what you say. And they'll do what they can to drag you down, discredit anything that you say, mainly for the sake of not agreeing what you are saying on this topic or that topic. Every individual that talks about anything, no matter how many people agree with anything, there's always going to be an opposition. And no matter how many people disagree with any other subject, there's always going to be people that will be advocating for it. It's all about yin and yang, the balance between the good and the bad. Whether people like it or not, things work in harmony. Not for the sake of pushing our limits, but also to learn as we live through our world. As AI becomes all-encompassing, schools try to find balance. On a recent Thursday morning at Rochester Public Schools C-Tech building, high school senior Mazin Bakit was working on a program he's been developing for a class project. He's calling it SharkFin, and it's supposed to help people improve their financial literacy. Like students and industry workers, he has been using artificial intelligence to help him with the task. While developing a part of the program, he'll run it through an AI platform and ask the bot what it thinks of the product he's designing. The AI bot will then critique his work, pointing out errors or suggesting improvements that could be made. In turn, Beckett will tweak his creation and then take it back to the AI bot for further review. The two of them will go back and forth like that, round after round, until Beckett lands on a version of the program that works best. He says he thinks of AI as a stingy, mean investor. I say, what do you think about this idea? Beckett said, I'm using it as if I had a feedback coach. Beckett is a part of a generation growing up in a rapidly changing technological world. In 2023, the company OpenAI launched the first edition of ChatGPT, which was among the first commonly available AI platforms to hit the market. And thus the AI revolution launched into full force. Since then, there's hardly been a segment of life that hasn't been re-examined through the lens of artificial intelligence. In Rochester Public Schools, it's something that everyone's having to adjust to, from students to teachers to administrators. The goal is not to prohibit students from using it, but rather to help them learn about how to use it responsibly, knowing full well that the wider world they are going to enter into after graduation is going to be saturated with it. That, however, is a bit like building the proverbial airplane mid-flight, since the world is still adjusting to what a future under artificial intelligence will look like. Honestly, can't have said it better myself. The world is changing, and a lot more fast and a lot more rapidly than we could imagine. Will people able to catch up? Well, we'll see about that. It's nice to see that there are people, despite the reliance on artificial intelligence, people are saying that if you're going to use AI, use it responsibly. I would also add that you should also properly prompt the AI to give the answer that not just helps answer your queries, but also goes above and beyond just the detailed answer that you were looking for in the first place. Because AI is so smart, and knowing how smart it can be, utilize it. Now, don't be afraid to go beyond just asking queries. Give it role-playing role. Make it role-play as someone or a particular profession. Ask it for specifications. Consider different cautions or disastrous factors that would not likely happen, but when it does, it will hit you like a ton of bricks. All of these factors that it's all considered and put into factor, and then the answer comes out with not just the answer you want, but also an answer that prepares you for the worst. That is what needs to be done, not just now, but in the next few years. So it's important. And also, just thinking about how other people I would know react about AI, I know for certain there will be people that aren't going to just trust AI with everything. That's great. But that doesn't stop people from actually having trust in AI to begin with. It may be good, but it's not that good, nor is it good enough to do anything that we want it to do. You gotta be on your feet. Gotta be very careful. Never let technology or AI dictate how you live your life. Because by allowing that because by allowing such circumstances like that to happen, you'll never live a life that you're truly happy with or that you're satisfied with. Nor you will ever live or you will ever live a life that is spiritually good for you. Norris wins Brazilian Grand Prix sprint race, widens lead over Piastri to 9 points. On Saturday at Interlagos, Oscar Piastri crashed out of the sprint race, handing further championship initiative to rival and teammate Lando Norris. A radio message suggested Lando Norris ran slightly wide at a curb, dispersing standing water and causing wet grip issues that led Oscar Piastri, Nico Hülkenberg, and Franco Colapinto to spin out at turn 3 into Lagos. Race control halted the session on lap 8 of 24 after Franco Colapinto damaged the barrier, and Max Verstappen was fourth at the stoppage, worth 4 points as stands. Lando Norris now heads the championship by a single point, while the result is another setback for Oscar Piastri, whose 15-race lead ended 2 weeks ago and has not won since. Looking at the season-long arc, Oscar Piastri's form has spiraled since his last podium at Monza, after leading Norris by 24 points following the Dutch Grand Prix. Goodness, it's so exciting, Formula One. I don't watch Formula One, but when I do hear about it, I know Max Verstappen, Oscar Piastri, Lando Norris. Those are the big names I hear very often, and I'm not sure where Lewis Hamilton is at any point in Formula One, but I know he's still around. Just I'm not just hearing his name as often. So yeah, this is a new era compared to the one where it has been dominated primarily by Lewis Hamilton, a very, very noticeable Formula One racer. Will Lewis Hamilton reach back to his prime? Probably not. But that does not mean he won't be good enough to continue racing. He still is. However, I think As eras and generations go by in sports of any kind, new faces and new names will appear about and will be talked about in the next coming years. So, whilst Max Verstappen is a very, very good racer for Formula One as of now, McLaren, as a primary Formula One manufacturer, is doing very well as well. Not just the two races, but the technology. Despite the fact I haven't seen much of that technology, I know I've heard so much about McLaren's races, and to me that sounds like something at McLaren is going pretty well. I would not be surprised if Norris or Piastri were to win Formula One as a whole in the next few years, if they're still about and in their prime, or about to reach their prime. I can see that happening. I have a feeling, with what little knowledge I have on Formula One, I have a feeling that one of the McLaren racers, either they're still at McLaren or racing for another manufacturer or another team, they will do well. They certainly will. And that is it for the episode.